Okay, here we are in part 3 of modeling yet another cutaway house. We've got a bed, a picture, and windows, a couple of other rooms, and I think it's time to go on and we'll make these little nightstands. Should be pretty easy to do. So I'm going to select the floor again in face selection, and I'm just going to select that face. Shift D to duplicate it, move it up a bit, and S to scale. Pull it in a bit, and then I'll use the arrows to position it. I'm going to scale again, S to scale, and drag it to the approximate position that I would want it to be. It's going to be close to the wall, I believe. Let's have a look at the diagram. Alright, and it's roughly a rectangle, and you can see it comes up to close to the top of the bed, so I can make it a little bit smaller. Bring it in. I'm then going to pull it down towards the floor, and I'm going to extrude it up, and we'll work on the size after that. So let's hit E to extrude, pull up in the Z direction to the approximate height that we'd want it. Alright. It looks a little bit too square to me, so I'm going to hit A to select it all, and I realize I've got it still as part of this object. So let's select a piece of it and go Control L to select what's linked to that, and let's break it away from the room. So hit P, separate by selection, go back into object mode, and then select it and set origin to geometry. That moves the transform tool or gizmo right to that object. So there it is. So let's go back into edit mode, A to select it all, and I'm going to scale it, but not in the height, so not in Z. So I'm going to go S, and then I'm going to go Shift Z, and that'll scale it in the X and the Y, but not in the Z. We'll just do that and make it a little bit more rectangular. Okay, so that's basically going to be the shape that we're going to use. Now, to make the drawers, there's 3 of them. There's a couple of different ways, but I tend to do it like this. And it might look a bit different than the diagram. I'm going to go Control R, hovering my mouse over this vertical line, and I'll get a horizontal edge loop. I roll my mouse up once, and click, left click, and right click to finish that. Okay, deselect. I now have 3 areas that I can make drawers out of. So I'm going to switch over to face selection, and I'm going to click that face, shift and click that one, shift and click that one, so they're all selected. Alright, to make the drawers, I'm now going to hit I twice to inset twice. I'm going to hit I and then I again, and that'll separate them, and I'm just going to accept the default values. Left click to finish that, and I've got those selected. Now I want these drawers to come out a little bit, so I'm going to hit E to extrude, and I'm going to pull in the X direction just a little bit like that. Go to object mode, and you can see we have some drawers there. Alright, they're not set in or anything, but that's good enough. I'm going to put a bevel on that right away, so I'm going to, with this selected, I'm going to shift and click that, which has a bevel on it already, and I'm going to go Control L, and I'm going to choose modifiers. That'll put the same bevel on this. Deselect, and you can see it looks a little bit better. Let's take it and push it down to the floor and see what it would look like there. And back towards the wall, and a little bit towards the bed. Just get a sense of this thing. Right, I think that'll work. So let's delete the bottom face on this because it won't be seen. So let's isolate it by going Shift H. Now we can hit the period key to zoom in on that. Go into edit mode and select this bottom face in face selection, and X, delete faces. Go back into object mode and Alt H to bring everything back, and we'll never even know that that's gone. Now this has what looks like little circular handles. It's hard to tell, so we'll do circles. Of course, you could bring in a new circle and you could create that knob. We want them in the center of these drawers, so I'll show you a way I want to do it. Let's go into edit mode and select this drawer. If you did bring in a circle to create a new knob and you want it to show up right at the drawer, select the front face and go Shift S, cursor to selected. And if I go back in object mode, you'll see my 3D cursor is right there. So if I did bring in a circle, Shift A, mesh, circle, and I scaled it, let's say, and rotate Y 90 and scaled it again. You can see that my knob is right at the place that I would want it, and I could build it there. I'm going to delete that though, because I'm going to do it a different way. I'm going to select this face, and I'm going to copy it, Shift D, move it out a little bit so you can see it. I've got a copy. I'm going to hit S to scale. All right, so I've got that. I'm going to separate it from this object, because right now if I select it all, I get the whole, I get the square and the nightstand there. So I'm going to select it and go P, separate by selection, back into object mode, find the object and set origin to geometry. So there's my little square. Okay, so let's come in here. Let's go Control R, put a vertical edge loop, Control R, put a horizontal edge loop. So I've got that. Now, to convert this to a circle, with it selected, I can go W, Loop Tools, Circle, and I have a nice circle there. I'm going to give it some thickness, E, and I'll pull out like this to make a knob. And it's not very smooth, so let's get rid of the bevel and put on subdivision surface. I'll put smoothing. That might be good enough, but we'll put some edge loops on here. So in edge selection, I'm going to Shift Alt and click this edge, and I'm going to hold Shift and Alt and keep clicking all the way around till I get it all. Shift Alt and click, Shift Alt and click, Shift Alt and click, like that. Control B to bevel and pull till you get a region like that. Scroll your mouse wheel up once, that's probably good enough, and done. One more edge loop, Control R, click and drag to near the bottom. Select it all, move it out. We're going to delete the back faces. Okay, in face selection, select that one, hold Shift, select all of them, X faces. That will straighten things up a little bit. Now, because we moved it out, my transform tool or gizmo's there, so set origin to geometry. Pull it back in until it touches the drawer. Have a look. Looks fine to me. Let's take that and copy it down. Shift D, move it down in the Z direction to around the middle of the drawer. Shift D. Doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. And we have our night table with that. What I'm going to do now is make this a group so I can copy it easily and move it around. So I'm going to select all the knobs and then holding Shift and then that, and I'm going to go Control G, and it turns green in my version of Blender. With that done, I'm going to go Shift G and select group, so I make sure I've got everything. Move, yeah, I got everything. Okay, let's copy this over here. Shift D to duplicate, drag it over to here. I now have two end stands, or nightstands, whatever. All right, cool. Let's create this little desk-like thing with a mirror and that. All right, so we're going to get a rectangular shape there. So where can we get it from? Bring a new one in, or we want to just grab the floor again? Let's use that. Shift D, bring it up, scale, S to scale, just move it around. All right, use the period key if you want to zoom right in on it. And position it about there. Let's make it longer this way, so let's go into edge selection, grab that edge, just pull it. Have a look at the diagram and see that it looks like it almost lines up with the edge of the bed. So we could do that. It is rectangular that way. Is that what we want? Yes, that's what we want. And maybe I will, if I select it all, it's part of the odd object, so select a piece of it, Control L, P, break it out. Find it, origin of geometry, always the same things. Move it back to the wall, maybe a little over. It's got to go there a bit more. Okay, we can adjust these shapes in a bit. Now this desk part is roughly on the same height as the top of the bed frame, so I can pull it up to here about. Then go into edit mode. A to select it all. Let's give it some thickness, so E, pull down. Now if I pull up, I get a different color, light gray, dark gray. That's because I'm pulling and some of my normals are facing the wrong way. So select it all, Control N, you see the color change. Now, is that too thick? Nah, looks about right. Okay. We're going to make the back of it now, the mirror part here. It's quite thin. You could do it as a separate piece, but I think I'm going to do it all together as one piece. So I'm going to go into edit mode, Control R, click, and drag this edge loop right down to the approximate thickness that I want it. Something like that. I'm going to go to face selection and select that face. And now I'm going to pull it up, but let me just look at how high. See, this window, it looks like it's about halfway, but this still looks like it's about on par with the bed. So that's what happens when you do it in 3D. Let's just go ahead and do it though. Pull up to about there. I think I'm going to grab that and pull it in a little bit. And I'm starting to think it's too wide. I'm going to select it all and scale in the X. I'm starting to think it needs to be like that. Okay, to make the mirror itself, I'm going to indent a bit, or inset. Select that face. I'm going to hit I and pull in just a little bit, and then I'm going to extrude back just a little bit. So there's a bit of a recessed region there. All right, now I'm going to make the legs. I'm going to go in edit mode. I'm going to select that bottom face. I'm going to go Shift D to duplicate it, and S to scale. And I'm going to make this into a square, so I'm going to have to scale it in the X. And you hit the period key to zoom in. Have a look at this. Not quite. Scale it in the Y. And I'm now going to extrude it down and have a look. E, and pull down, and imagine that's going to be my leg. Obviously, I won't have it right there. All right, let's compare to the diagram. Not too bad. Let's Control L, and let's move it to roughly the position that it would go in. I'm going to put it underneath, but around there. Let's see. Let's go into object mode and see if that would look like a reasonable leg. Is it too thick? Is it just about right? It's obviously not long enough yet. Okay, not too bad. Let's go in and select this bottom face. And let's pull to the touches the ground. With it still selected, X faces to delete that face. Let's go back into object mode and let's isolate the chair by going Shift H. It's not really a chair, is it? Desk with a mirror. Okay, I think I like that, so I'm going to go into edit mode, select a piece of that leg, and go Control L. Have one last look of whether I like it. I think it's okay. I'm going to go Control 7 to look from the very bottom, and with that selected, Shift D to duplicate it, and I'm just going to place the copies by eye. Shift D again. Make sure we go under the mirror. Shift D and over here. Okay. Deselect and come back and have a look at that. I probably could have gotten rid of the face up here as well, couldn't I? Go into wireframe. You know, if we really want to be sure, so we could grab that face. Shift D, or not Shift D, I'm just holding Shift, is what I'm saying. And delete those faces as well. Back in solid view, we don't need those. Okay, Alt H to bring everything else back. With the desk selected, Shift and click the bed, which has the bevel, Control L and choose modifiers. Hopefully that bevel is enough on there. Alright, let's move this a little bit back towards the wall again, and a tiny bit over that way, so there's a little bit of a gap. I'm going to take this object, and if I just go Shift G group, I'm going to get both of them, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to select the knobs, and I'm going to go Shift D, copy it over, and you'll see what I'm going to do here. I'm going to rotate Z 90, slide it under here. And now what I'm going to do is we're going to create the drawers that come under the table here, but there's only 2 of them, and it looks like it's kind of attached there with a little bit of a gap. So what we'll do is I'm going to go Shift H just to isolate that. I'll come under here. Actually, let's not go into the knob. Let's go into the desk, and I am going to select and delete parts of this. So I am going to hover my mouse over this vertical line and go Shift Alt, and that will select all of the polygons around that. You can pick and choose. I can select that one, and I want this one, and anything that you can see that's part of this lower part. And if you miss something, we can just go back. Let's just go X faces. And I've gotten rid of all of that. I'm going to go into edge selection, Shift Alt and click that edge, and it's just a big square. I'm going to close it off because we possibly will see the bottom. F. And that's it. Let's come back in here and delete that knob. Alt H. And then I will select the knobs and that, and I'm going to slide it over a little bit more. And I take it back. I'm going to slide it over this way because we want to be able to see those drawers, don't we? But this one might be a little narrower than this one, and it would fit better underneath there. So without selecting the knobs, just selecting this, I'm going to go SX, make it a little narrower. Okay, the knobs are still central. I can shift and click the knobs, and pull it over now to about there. So I want to have access to the drawers. So now I'm just going to go on this into edit mode, and I'm going to select the faces that are left on the side. There's 2 of them. Pull that out till it's not quite flush with those legs. And I have that. Hopefully that is the right spacing. It looks like it's still a little wide. Looks like it's half and half. So let's keep going then. Select that. I'm going to scale this in the X. This may throw off the centerness of everything. So I'm going to pull it over till I can just see the drawers. Take the knobs, pull them over till they look central to me. Come back here and go, still looks good. Okay. Let's select that and Shift H to isolate it. We can get rid of the top here. That's joined to the desk. Alt H to bring everything back. We're not going to see that top. And if we're unsure whether or not it's touching, we can always move it and just make sure that it contacts and it looks good. Now let's look back at our scale and positioning. Does that all look okay? A little bit of clearance between the bed and that, yeah. All right, let's do one more quick thing. Let's do that little stool there. Okay. We are going to make a circle here, so my 3D cursor's over there. You can just click there, right click there, and set the 3D cursor there. Shift A, mesh, circle. I'm going to change the vertices here to 24, just because I don't want to use too many. That's too big, so I'm going to go into edit mode and S to scale it down. You see it's right at the 3D cursor. And scale it until you get the size that you think this little base part would be. I'll go a little bit more. Okay, so we're going to start extruding this up and building. I'm going to switch into edge selection, and I'm going to hit E and S, and I'm going to pull in until I get the approximate diameter that I would want to use to make this vertical tube part right there. And again, we can change all that later. All right, so let's say that's what we want. We'll try that. We're going to extrude it up in the Z, E to extrude, and pull up. Now, how high to pull up? That is the question. Well, it looks like it's about halfway of the desk and of the bed frame. So maybe about there. And then we're going to have to make the seat. Okay? So we're just going to make, you'd be in another circle, but there's no need to do that. I'm just going to go E and S and pull out. It's a wider diameter than the base. All right, as you can see, not too much wider. Try that. And then let's hit E to extrude and come up a ways to make both the white and the green part together for now. All right, so just like that. Say that, we'll try that. Okay, and let's close this off. Let's go E and S, pull in a little ways, and then go Mesh, Faces, Grid Fill. That'll fill it, but don't leave the span at 6. Change it to something like 2. All right, just to reduce the number of polys. Okay, now this is what we have. We still need to come down here, Shift Alt and click that edge and give it some thickness or height. E, pull down, it'll go into the floor. We can't see it, so hit A twice to select everything. Pull this up. Now we can see it. Deselect. Come back, Shift Alt and click and just make it a little bit bigger. Select it all. Bring it down to the floor. We don't need a bottom face. It won't be seen. Just like that. And let's have a look at this. It's not bad. Okay, so we're going to do a bit more work. Let's come into here. We're going to Shift Alt and click this edge and this edge, and we're going to bevel this. Control B, pull a little ways. It's looking like a bar stool. Stop. Leave it like that. And then we're going to go Control R right in the middle, and then Control B, pull till we get a small area like this, and we're going to make the division between the white and the green. With that still selected, go E, click, Alt S, and push. See the way it's going in? Don't push too much. To about there. Stop, come out. Now, let's go Add Modifier, Subdivision Surface, Smooth. We'll see if we can get away with one, but we got some work to do. Back into Edit Mode. This is looking really strange. Control R to put an edge loop, click and pull it down near the bottom. You don't have to go right to the bottom, go right to about there. While we're in this area, Control R here, you get that circle, pull it in. You don't have to go right to the end, just to about there. Let's see what that did. Okay, we need more. Shift and Alt and click that, and go Control B to bevel. Roll your mouse wheel up once. There's our edge loop in there. That's the base. More here. Same idea. Control R, pull up near the top. On this region, Control R to get that circle, pull it in. That's probably going to be enough. Now this might need more support. So I'm just going to go Control R and I'm going to pull one more up. That's it. Okay, almost. We have this little groove in the middle. Up here, Control R, pull down towards the groove but not at it. Control R here, similar distance. One last thing I'd like to do, I'd like this to be a little smoother than this. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to Shift Alt and click that edge loop, pull it down a little ways, and pull in one more right down to there. That's it. A bit sharper than this. Now let's just look at the size of this. Is that too big? It might be. I'm going to globally scale it, select it in S to scale it a little bit. And we're going to leave it like that. And it's going to rest on the ground. But it might need to be closer to the bench. I don't know for sure. Yeah, it's hard to tell from that angle. I'm just going to leave it there for now anyhow. Okay, so we now have this room starting to fill up with objects. I'm just debating if the headboards and baseboard need to be a little taller, but that's awesome. So what we'll do next time is we'll make the lamps and the pillows, and we will be pretty much done this room. And I don't know whether or not we're going to reuse any of this stuff anywhere. Doesn't really look like it. All right. Yeah, so that's where we're at. Okay, great. So let's leave it at that, and we'll see you in a bit.